want to talk about feeling lost. And what I essentially want to talk about is what happens when we feel lost. I can personally say in the moments that I felt lost, I feel a kind of despair. I feel as if nothing makes sense. I also feel that everything I've done up to this point has been useless, pointless. Why have I even tried? Feeling lost makes you feel like you're going to die and you're going to die in vain. Also, feeling lost sometimes feels like a kind of futility in having even tried. It robs you of all your will and you feel powerless. Powerless to change the past, powerless to change the future. The present is just a trap. What a strange conundrum we find ourselves in sometimes. A sense of feeling lost seems to be accompanied with fear. There's always a kind of fear or anxiety where we don't know what will happen in the future. I think that is one of the key markers of feeling lost. Because if there were no fear, then we wouldn't really feel lost. Now, the next question we might ask ourselves is, why do we need to feel found? What's this obsession with being found or being on the right path? And I think that can also tell us something very telling about ourselves. Because if we feel like we need to be found, then what do we need to be found from? What do we need to find? Do we need to find that one path that will make sense in our lives? Do we need to find a recognition, a mission, a purpose? Even if we do find that purpose, we might still feel lost. So what is this feeling of lostness that accompanies us? And is it a good feeling? Is it a bad feeling? Normally we classify it as a bad feeling, but sometimes I feel that it can be a good feeling because it guides us forward. It pushes us out of our comfort zone and it sends us into a dimension where we start to challenge ourselves. Sometimes we do think it's a bad feeling, but maybe it's not all that bad. And then the question is, why do we need to find ourselves? What is this that we need to find? In my experience, I've been a chef and I love food. And because of that, I found that I could do this forever. Well, at least I felt like that. But over time, it started to grate against me. It started to put pressure on me. And the act, which had come out of so much love for food, started to become banal. It started to become mundane. And it even started to become oppressive. And I remember having a very emotional period at some point where I was effectively cursing the gods. Because I felt that I had finally found something that I really like, and now you're taking this away from me. Now you're giving me the same feeling where I'm not sure this is it. That kind of feeling was very difficult to handle, but it did transpire into something new. I ended up writing a lot more. I ended up writing a book. And the things that happened afterwards couldn't have happened if I hadn't let that go. So when we think of feeling lost, maybe this feeling is there to protect us. And I wonder if this is part of all human experience or if this is specifically a very new thing that we encounter in this modern society. Because we put so much emphasis on finding your way, finding your passion, finding your path, that inevitably the contrast to that is going to be that we're going to feel lost. And that's one of the hardest things to make sense of. Because when society is telling you, you should find your way, when you see examples of other people who have found their way, it just seems like, why not me? What's wrong with me? Why have I not found my way? And that leads me to two thoughts. One is naturally the obvious one, that something must be wrong with me. But the second thought, interestingly, is what if they're just lying? What if this is just a facade that we all put up? And then I wonder, is this a necessary facade? Because I find that adults are also not very sure of what they're doing. We can never find this state of mind where we're going to be 100% sure of every action we're doing. Because to be sure means to also entertain doubt. We can't have surety without doubt. And in finding ourselves, we will always have a feeling of being lost. So I wonder why this whole feeling of lostness seems to bother us. I'd like to contrast this feeling of being lost with a kind of feeling of freedom. You know, when we go out wandering into the jungle or into the forest, we find an immense freedom in just roaming and exploring. And maybe this feeling of lostness is in a way our savior. It is urging us towards exploration. It's only when we contrast it with the demands of our society that we think it's a bad thing, because society is portraying finding a passion and being committed to one path a good thing. But not everyone likes to follow the same path set by someone else. Some people like to chart their own path. Some people like to go into a region with no paths. Some people like to go in the snow where after they've gone, the paths are all covered up. Some people like to be lost. And that's okay. I think it should be okay. Because as far as we know, there have always been wanderers in society. There have always been people who moved around, who tried to seek new pastures, who didn't even want to arrive anywhere. The journey was better than the arriving. And it seems like there is a kind of beauty in this, a beauty that we might feel in our modern day mindsets, a beauty that's kind of lost. And I think we shouldn't lose that beauty. It's very important for us. It's very important that we keep a connection to that sense of wonder. Because if we lose that wonder, then who are we really? Who are we as human beings if we don't have wonder for the sense of being in an unknown place, being in an unknown mindset, and looking forward to a day that we can't predict, a kind of explorative mood which is characterized by endless possibilities, by surprise, by a feeling of it's going to be okay and it's going to be fun. It might even be scary. It might even be an adventure where if you look back, you think, how did I survive that? It could be magnificent, marvelous. It could be dreadful, treacherous. But in the end, it makes for a good story. So I think in this exploration that we've just undertaken of this feeling of being lost, I think we have to see that maybe this feeling isn't such a bad thing. Maybe we're just looking at it the wrong way. Maybe the more we feel lost and the more we're inclined to feel lost, the more we're meant to explore. Maybe we're meant to feel lost for a while, and maybe we're meant to feel lost forever. And maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise where we have the blessing to be explorers. Maybe exploring for a short while is a way we can find our path. Maybe this feeling of being lost gives us such an oppressive mood because we've stopped exploring. Because it's trying to tell us, hey, why'd you stop? Keep going. You know, sometimes maybe this feeling is just saying, this isn't it. This is nice, but keep going. It's a beautiful waterfall. It's a great lake. It's a beautiful view. But there's more. It's coming. When you get there, you'll see. Just keep going. And this feeling is telling us that. I think if we interpret it in the right way, we'll see what wonders lie for us ahead. Because, you know, in the end, I think whether you're lost or you're found, whether you know what you're doing in life or whether you don't, I think in the end, when you reach that moment where you're about to let go of life, I think you should look back and say, yup, that was good. No regrets. Because that kind of life is going to be one that you'll cherish. And, you know, when we die, we don't get to take anything from this earth. no money, property, not even our friends, not even our loved ones. But maybe we do get to take the things we learned. Conversely, maybe the things we leave behind are the things we get to take. And the things we leave behind are the things we leave behind in people's hearts. And the things we leave behind are maybe the paths that we've taken. And those things, in a weird, paradoxical way, are the things we get to take with us. And isn't that just beautiful? Yeah. I'd like to leave you all with this thought that feeling lost is a good thing. Try and see the blessing that comes in scary clothes. And remember to keep exploring. You'll know when it's time to stop. And you'll know when it's time to keep going. I think it's just important to sit and listen sometimes. And the other times, just keep going. On this line of thought, before we part, I'd like to share with you a poem that's very dear to my heart. It is Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Thank you for listening, and until next time.